What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm doing a quick review of episode 3 of House of the Dragon, second of his name. This episode is basically split into two sections and I'll discuss those separately. First we have the Stepstones War that I'll go into first, and then we have the Royal Hunt stuff that I'll go into afterwards. Overall, the Stepstones War I enjoyed. I did have some issues with the battle logic and some stuff there, but I really enjoyed Daemon in this episode. I loved the Laenor and Sea Smoke reveal that Laenor is a dragon rider, and and the fact that Sea Smoke appeared there. So I enjoyed that. I also enjoyed how this interlinked with the political stuff that was happening with Viserys, and how Alicent convinced Viserys to send help to Daemon and the Valerian. So I really enjoyed that. I do think that this battle could have been fleshed out a bit more, maybe flesh out the triarchy a bit more to make it look a bit more like a serious threat and not just like a side thing. Although I have to say in the book it's also just a side note, so it is kind of what it should be, but I was hoping for a bit more. I was also hoping to see actually how the crab feeder dies in the end, but I'm okay with how they did it, but it certainly wasn't my favorite part of the episode. I really enjoyed seeing Caraxes at the start, really just burning things, and yeah, it felt very like, if you've read Fire and Blood, you recognize a lot of like Caraxes' personality in that, and yeah, I thought that was super fun. I really like the visuals of Caraxes, the way he's blowing fire. It looks like his horns are also glowing, so I really enjoyed that. And as I said, like Laenor and Sea Smoke, I thought was super fun. The whole like Laenor wooing while he was on Sea Smoke and burning shit was a bit weird, but I'm okay with it. I really enjoy it. I hope to see more of Laenor in the next episode, because I think it was a bit abrupt probably for new viewers to see like, oh, this guy has a dragon, what's happening? But personally, I enjoyed it and I hope to see more, as I said. So the Stepstones, I don't have a lot more to say. I thought it was a cool battle. I thought it was visually really nice, but I do think like the battle with the fact that it took 3 years, I don't think they explained it well enough why it took 3 years. I don't think the triarchy was made to look like super engaging enemies or super important. So yeah, I think those are some criticisms that could have been addressed in this battle, but overall I think it's fine, because really for me the heart of this episode once again is the character work during the Royal Hunt scene. And now, so the main thing is we have skipped 3 years, so the status quo has changed quite a bit since episode 2. So now Alicent is queen, Viserys married Alicent, and they now have a son, and the son is 2 years old, and the son is named Aegon. And we already see the scheming, because a lot of people, including House Hightower, is expecting Viserys to name Aegon the new heir, because now he has a son. So they're like, well, Rhaenyra has a daughter, so the firstborn son should become the heir, right? Well, Viserys doesn't quite see it that way. So Viserys is throughout this episode struggling with making this decision whether he should stick with Rhaenyra or whether he should actually name Aegon. One thing that plays into that is his relationship with Rhaenyra, which is getting more and more fractured one, because of the way his relationship with Alicent was revealed to Rhaenyra in the last episode. So I think partially it's because he does not want to fracture that relationship with Rhaenyra even more, but other than that, it's also largely because he kind of tells us in this episode, in this conversation with Alicent, that we knew that he named her because he was mad at Daemon. But he really tells us that he named her because he wanted to save the realm from Daemon, but also because he was grieving for his wife, and he kind of wanted to make up his decision to like sacrifice his wife to get a son, and he felt bad about that. That's one of the main reasons why Rhaenyra was named. And now since he has a son, and considering the dream that we know he had, this prophetic dream that he thinks that his son will kind of play an important role in the wars to come, he reveals that dream to Alicent, and we really see this conflicted side of Viserys, where he's like, did I make the right choice? Is Aegon maybe the child that I should make the heir? Is he the child that I saw in my dream, or aren't my dreams not prophetic at all? Like, was it just a dream? Like, maybe I didn't have this power of seeing the future. So he's really struggling with that and trying to like figure out what is the best course of action. And for him, obviously, the fact that there is all of this scheming going around, all of these lords that are expecting him to name Aegon, and then with Otto Hightower and Hobart Hightower trying to kind of convince him that Aegon should be the heir, I think he's kind of really put into a place where he has to make this decision, but he's also kind of tired of having to think about this. So we see him really in a very emotional state, and we see him drinking, we see him having emotional outbursts, we see him, yeah, really vulnerable in this episode. And I think Paddy Considine really did an amazing job at portraying that side of Viserys. So, yeah, Viserys for me, I said last week in episode 2 that Rhaenyra was the heart of the episode. For me, this time it's Viserys. I think the conflict and just the way Paddy Considine acted out every aspect of the character in this episode was amazing. And yeah, the whole royal hunt scene was also quite nice. It was funny to see the way they hunted down that stag, and obviously Otto trying to like whisper in Viserys's ear that this white stag, it's kind of a royal portent to show that hey, Aegon should be the heir. And obviously Otto is trying to play into like Viserys and his interest in prophecy, let's say, that he's trying to like use that to make him believe, hey, Aegon is the guy. But I think Viserys kind of realizes when, or that's my read on it, that when he sees, okay, it's not the white stag that they hunted down, it's just a regular stag, that he kind of took that as, okay, maybe this isn't a sign that Aegon should be the king. So I think that's one of the things that makes him decide to not unname Rhaenyra as the heir and stick with his decision. And also, I really like the symbolism with having Rhaenyra see the stag. It might come across as a little bit corny, but I think they did it just right. That it didn't feel too corny, but it still got the message across. I also really like Rhaenyra in this episode. She's obviously, there has been a switch since episode 2. In episode 2, we really saw her trying to get involved in the politics, get more. We saw her trying to like do the right things. She said the right things, she did the right things. She was trying to solve the issue with Daemon and Otto. She was understanding of her father's situation, that he had to remarry, and she even said that like, you're the king, your first duty is to the realm. And we really saw that, okay, she understands what ruling means. In this episode we really see her in a more angsty situation where she's realizing like, my father has a son now, so he may actually unname me. And it is kind of, so we did this discussion with Jake, again, one on his channel, one on my channel, and he mentioned like it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, where it's the fact that Rhaenyra thinks that she will not be the heir anymore kind of makes her act in a way that really undermines her claim. Like, she's being rude to people, she's yeah, not trying to like win over the lords and trying to like strengthen her own claim. Rather what she's doing is she's running away, she's having these emotional outbursts at her father, she's trying to like just avoid being involved in this court politics, which kind of just leads to people having a more negative view of her, which again leads to the fact that they will probably not want her as queen. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, which I think is kind of sad. It's kind of tragic to see her be in this position. I'm really looking forward to see how they develop this further. I really liked her interactions with Kristen Cole here as well, and it will be interesting to see now that Viserys and Rhaenyra have their talk at the very end, that Rhaenyra will get to choose her own her own husband, that she can decide for herself who she wants to marry. Is going to be interesting. I enjoyed the whole Jason Lannister thing in this episode. Like, it was nice to see some Lannisters again. We saw Jason, we saw Tywin Lannister, and Jason trying to like, get to marry Rhaenyra, but failing really. And one thing I really found funny is that he was trying to like, impress her with all the like nice things, like I can build you a dragon pit and stuff. But when Rhaenyra comes back like from her small adventure, let's say, and killing the boar, and she's full of blood, and she's coming back into the camp, you can actually see Jason like making a face and like, oh, okay, maybe I don't want to marry this one. So I thought it was funny. Like, they did a lot of subtle stuff that I as a book fan really enjoyed. They introduced a lot of new characters that I think we will see more of as well in the future. We saw Lionel Strong's sons, Larys and Harwin. We saw, as I mentioned, Jason and Tywin Lannister. We saw Laenor this week. So these are characters that will be reoccurring, so keep an eye on those. And I also really enjoyed Alicent in this episode. I think Alicent is one of the characters that has gone under the radar a bit because she's doing a lot of subtle acting, the actress. But I think it's really nice to see how her position has switched in these 2 through 3 years. Like, she's grown into being the queen, and she is also like her relationship with her father has also switched a bit. Like, before she was like really under her father and had to do what her father was saying, but this time we see like her father is trying to push her to convince Viserys to name Aegon, but she doesn't feel as obliged to really immediately follow up on that and try to do that. But she can do her own thing now because she is the queen and she is in a more powerful position than maybe even her father. So yeah, I think there's some nice character growth going on all ends. I think it will be interesting to see how this develops further because, yeah, I think this was the part of Fire and Blood that I did not expect to enjoy this much on screen. I thought like, okay, this is the part that will be a bit dry, but I think they've done a great job to set up these characters, to set up all their personalities, and to set up the relationships that down the line, when we get into the real nitty-gritty stuff of the story, I think all of these things will pay off in major ways. So I'm really happy about the first 3 episodes. I'm really interested to watch them again, actually. Like, I love all 3. Personally, this one was my favorite. I would still give it 9 out of 10 because I think overall, like, the royal hunt and all the politicking stuff was as close to a 10 out of 10 as it could be for me. The whole battle stuff dragged it down a bit for me. So yeah, 9 out of 10 still. Like, it's not as good as the best episodes of Game of Thrones yet, but the fact that this isn't the most interesting part of the story, I think I'm very confident at this point that we'll see some really, really good episodes down the line this season and also in the next few seasons. So yeah, that's my quick review of episode 3 of House of the Dragon. If you want more deep thoughts, as I mentioned, I have done 2 discussion videos. One is on Jake's channel and one is on my channel. So if you want to check those out, check out the House of the Dragon playlist on my channel. Let me know how you enjoyed episode 3, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.